you ever played games, chances are there were a couple of them that were so addictive that you spent hundreds of hours playing them, grinding, leveling up, improving the skills of your character, without noticing how the majority of your day goes into playing. But what do game developers do so that you become addicted to their games? Is there a specific formula that you can use as a game developer that will boost the dopamine level of players and make them play your games for a longer period of time? Welcome to the first episode of the series where I'm going to explore the theories behind making games. I'm a self-taught game developer, and for the past year I've been learning and making games on this channel out of my own feelings of what is a fun game. I'm not a professor at a university that used to work in some kind of big gaming company and is now here to share his knowledge. Instead, a game developer just like you who is here to share the results of his research and develop skills for making better games. You may have heard 1,000 times already that dopamine released in our brain is what's responsible for the feeling of pleasure and motivation to repeat the behavior. When we constantly engage in activities to continually experience the pleasurable effects of dopamine release, we at some point may develop an addiction to the activity, in our case to playing the game. I'll put this dopaminometer in this corner and let's see what aspects of games give us that pleasure we all enjoy. A progression system that is now being used in thousands of games is a great way to instantly boost the dopamine level in your brain. Take any game with a progression system and the formula will be the same. I'll bring the example on World of Warcraft, which I played for a good 5 years. You start with the first level character with some base stats and few skills for fighting, but it takes very little time and effort to get your first couple of levels and unlock new abilities, which give you that dopamine boost. The game kinda introduces you to the pleasure you will get by playing it. Of course, as the time passes it becomes harder to level up and progress in the game, and the rewards in form of newly unlocked skills become not that frequent. And it's also done for a reason we will talk about later. Besides the dopamine boost, a good progression system also adds a long-term strategic component to the game. The talent trees in WoW are a good example of it. Every certain level you are given an option to pick one talent from a talent tree, and you have to decide where you want to spend it. Do you want to max out your damage or do you want to increase your healing? These options make players think and plan their strategies for hours or even days. You can also use a progression system to make a smooth learning curve for your game. Imagine if you just started the game and you have to pick one talent from a whole talent tree. You'll be lost. Instead, when you pick a talent in the early stages of the game, your options are very limited so as not to overwhelm the player. The levels in WoW also dictate what dungeons you are allowed to enter or what weapons you can equip to fight other mobs or players. Speaking of fighting others, it's time to move to the next dopamine booster. We all in some way love competing, be it with our friend, a complete stranger, a whole community, or even with our own previous score. We love to compete. A single line on the leaderboard can make players spend hours, days, or even months playing the same game and trying to beat the record. Be it a game like Minecraft or Trackmania with a huge speedrun community, or a simple game on Facebook, it just feels so good to finally nail the run and get the desired position on the leaderboard. In other games where there is no actual final score or a timer like Geometry Dash, you compete with yourself trying to finish the whole level. And it's really that simple. Just show the players a clear goal, like in this case completing the stage by 100%, and they will have no rest until they reach the goal. If you think our brain gives a shit that the worlds and places in games are not actually real, you are very wrong. We love discovering new places, and the fact that they do not exist in real world does not make the process less enjoyable. I personally spent many hours just traveling to new locations in World of Warcraft to open that part on the map and enjoy the views of those beautiful places. But it's not only the places that are so compelling in games, but also the stories. Especially in recent games, the stories evolved so much that they are now an integral part of the gameplay. I was always a fan of God of War franchise, and even if I haven't played Ragnarok myself, I surely spent 20 hours watching the gameplay with Coke and popcorn, as if watching a very long movie. And games nowadays are indeed like movies. You play endless hours because you just wanna know what happens in the end. Positive rewards are one of the main tactics developers use to entice people to play their games. The more professional way to call it is positive reinforcement. You've seen many videos where animals perform certain activities to get a treat, and something makes them do the same thing over and over again. It works the exact way with humans. When we overcome a big challenge, like winning a difficult boss fight or completing the longest quest in World of Warcraft, our brain is waiting for a reward. and when we receive one, we get a huge dopamine boost. Even watching a video till the end for us is a small task our brain wants to be rewarded for. So good job watching until this point. But you know what gives even a bigger dopamine boost than rewards? Drum rolls, please. Are you ready? Are you ready? Random rewards. Be it a random timing, a random item, or a random amount of items, we feel so much bigger boost. Over time, our brain gets used to the dopamine doses that we get from completing certain tasks and receiving a reward. But when we get random rewards when we were not expecting them, the dopamine just hits differently. Take an example of the same WoW, where while doing the main quest, you suddenly loot some very cool items from the mobs. Or just look at those streamers playing Vampire Survivors, where after finishing the boss, they get a very rare 5 ability upgrades instead of the usual 1 upgrade at the time.
Yes! 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 Holy
dopamine.
Yes!
Talking about receiving the rewards, have you noticed that recently more and more games have these animations with pop-in chests or loot boxes before showing the actual reward? This is done not only to make things beautiful, but the anticipation makes the reward more desirable and thus gives a bigger dopamine boost. As human beings, we are natural learners. We learn to survive and we enjoy the process of learning. In popular games with unique game mechanics like Super Hot or Ambush Shooter for Blind by Valve, there is a gradual learning curve. We start off like complete noobs, but after some time we get used to the game mechanics. Be it understanding how exactly the time works in Super Hot or learning the boss patterns in Elden Ring. There is something enjoyable in mastering the game mechanic and then smashing your opponents with new skills. The problem is that there is a delicate line where the challenge is so simple that it is boring and the challenge is so hard that the game becomes frustrating to play, which was exactly what happened with my first game. People were playing the game non-stop, dying a lot of times and then rage quitting. And this actually brings us to our next dopamine booster you would never think of. You always want what you can have, right? Making players wait is another tactic game developers use to keep people returning. Remember any game you played where after spending all the energy, hearts or whatever it was in the game, you had to forcefully take a break from it? Yes, developers intentionally force you to take breaks. According to Dr. K, there are 3 phases that a player goes through while playing a game. The first phase is when the game feels so good to play that the more you play it, the more joy it will bring. After some time you enter the tolerance phase, where the game does not bring as much joy, but it still provides a sense of relief from negative emotions. Basically, your body becomes so used to the high level of dopamine that what used to be a high level now becomes your normal. And the final phase is when you develop a biological addiction to the game. The game no longer brings the pleasure, but you are unable to stop playing it. And I do believe Dr. K, cause he's a true gamer just like us. I mean, you should be a real gamer to play out innocence so well.
Your mind works. You have a unique cognitive fingerprint, which is that you juggle a lot of balls. I'd guess that you get pretty excited. And what?
Sorry.
Okay.
So, how to avoid your players getting to the third phase? Make them take breaks. As I said, this is the first video of this series, so let me know what you guys think about it and what topic would you like me to cover next in the comments below. I'll try to put this knowledge into use, so in the next video I'll be attempting to make my first game, which made people go nuts, actually a fun game to play. Thanks a lot for watching and see you in the next one.